I might have to go into another page. God dang it. Oh, wait a minute. You can see it? Okay. I'm going to go ahead. Yep.
What's going on with you? How you doing, man?
Oh, not too much, James. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, man, it's good to talk to you. I interviewed you. We had a talk a long way back, but guess what?
Yeah.
A lot of things
Too
have
long.
changed with these Cowboys. Have we
Oh,
not
yeah.
seen that? Yeah, man, it's been kind of a crazy topsy turvy. I mean, I'm sure everybody's glad to see the Garrett era finally ending. Now you got Mike McCarthy in, so I'm gonna just jump right into this state of the Cowboys. What do you think about the state of the Cowboys as is right now? What are your feelings about the Cowboys?
I think optimism. The new coaching staff comes in. I like what they've done there. Still have a lot of young talent. I know that they went 8-8, but their points per game, the points allowed, everything said they should be a bounce back candidate team next year. At the same time, you got a pretty critical off, some chance for some major decisions to be made, and a good chance you end up locking in your core. Or this is your proper core right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited. The one reason why I was excited about the hire is because we don't have to worry about. Uh, they're saying they can't kind of hear us. Hold on, Walker.
No, we're good. I have it up.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, we're good. So let me know if you can hear me now. But anyway, as I was saying, with the Mike McCarthy thing, what really excited about me, Tom, about this more than anything else was we got a guy who's a veteran. We got a guy who's been there. We got a guy who's done that. He's a quarterback guy. He's been friendly. Rich Gannon. We know with Aaron Rodgers. We've seen what he's done. And then with the staff that he's brought on, it's a lot of veteran people. And it's to me more of like a win now staff because you got a lot of these guys with the Cowboys that are in their peak years, contracts, things of that nature. So it's a win now mode. You kind of what are your kind of feelings about that?
I think you're spot on there. As Jerry likes to say, he wanted someone who's been in the foxhole before, and that certainly fits Mike McCarthy. So I think win now is the perfect way to go about it. The coaching staff has all kinds of experience. McCarthy's been there. I think the offseason moves as well will be indicative of, hey, we're going to try and be a win now team, which they should be as well.
I mean, they definitely should be because it's a win now mode. We all know that when you watch a lot of these teams, you usually get, to me, it's like a 4-year window. Once you get those guys good and ready, when they're like that 24, 25, 26 apex, that's when you're in, you have that talent. That's that 4-year window, and you have to do it because a lot of times when you don't hit that 4-year window, and sometimes drafts don't go as you like, then you start back rebuilding. And Dallas don't have time for that any longer. Not in my opinion.
I agree.
Well, so given the staff that they just brought on board, you've seen the new Edwards from the Vikings, which I thought George Edwards was another good signing. You've seen what he's been doing with the linebackers over there, and he was with the Cowboys before. I know they haven't coached a game yet, and we haven't seen it in preseason or anything like that. But if you had a grade right now for the coaching staff, what grade would you have just by looking at it, what you see right now?
I'm gonna kind of give it in the B range. I like the vast majority of their moves. I think it was a really good hiring process overall. I'm glad they kept Kellen Moore. Was intrigued that McCarthy's going to allow him to call the plays, but I think a Mike McCarthy influenced Kellen Moore is going to be better than a Jason Garrett influenced Kellen Moore because I liked a lot of the designs and the overall scheme that Moore had. There were just times where it kind of felt like either he was being held back or at times as well, inexperience in terms of his play calling and when to call particular plays. And I think McCarthy's presence there will be a valuable impact on him.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm excited to see what they both can do for Dak.
Mm.
What do you like? What do you think about this defensive staff?
I really like the defensive staff. I think Mike Nolan coming in, who historically has had a scheme that has forced a lot more turnovers than we've seen since the Rod Marinelli era Cowboys. And I really like bringing in Jim Tomsula and George Edwards. Tomsula coached the defensive line. Is going to be a great influence there. And you mentioned Edwards. I loved that hire, regardless of what role he has. Getting him on the staff was a huge pickup late in the process.
Yes, that was like one of them scooper free agents, like we were getting on the football team. That was like a scoop, like out of nowhere. So that just really just got me even more excited, because to me, what I'm gonna see from the defense is it's not like we had a bad defense. Like 2 years, it hasn't been a bad defense, but to me, it's just been a lot of missing assignments, a lot of hero ball, just in my opinion. A lot of guys just trying to, not saying a lot of guys, but getting stats. Contracts are coming up. Not being gap integrity and not being disciplined. I think there was just a lot of undisciplined play toward the end of the year. And when I see this staff coming in with Tomsula, Nolan, you got Edwards. I like the Al Harris bringing in, helping him with Lindquist, because I love Al Harris, who's an in-your-face type guy. When I see that, I think there's going to bring back a lot of discipline on that defense, and we're going to see a lot more of that technique with that technique.
My favorite hire of all, though, I think by far, was getting John Fosselin to coach special teams, getting Ethan Quinn out of there, and you're going to have a massive upgrade on that front.
Yes, and hopefully we'll see that, because the special teams, not even with the kicking game, but the return game, man. Like, when have we had a punt returner? When we have a kick returner that actually puts some fear in a defense? I mean, we don't have that. It's almost like we get the ball to fair catch and we go right to the line of scrimmage. Can we get somebody that can get past 10, 15 yards? And please, I'm sorry, Tavon Austin, you gotta go.
Impact back there. And look, Chris Jones, the punter, was one of the worst in the NFL. So special teams coach comes in. I'm sure you'll see plenty of changes there. I think you're going to go from bottom 5 in the NFL in pretty much all categories to probably closer to at least middle of the pack, and that's a pretty massive upgrade.
Heck yeah, and I'm excited to see, and I'm definitely excited to see, even though we're talking about the offensive end, Tony Pollard. He was a guy that everybody was talking about, like, I think we're going to see a lot more explosiveness from him, and I hope so, because, man, we all know about Zeke, but when Tony Pollard's in that game along there, you just see our offense just go from en fuego to flame on.
Totally agree.
All right, so we talked about the state of the Cowboys, a little bit of the staff. Now let's jump on some of these money free agents, because everybody's been talking about the free agent. No, Dak, Amari, Byron, Robert Quinn. There's a lot of guys kind of out there. Give me your people that you think. I'll just go with Dak, because I haven't really heard your thoughts on it. So I'll just go with some of these top guys.
Okay.
What do you think about Dak? Do you think he's going to get franchised, or you think they're going to get these other guys out the way?
You might see a scenario where he gets franchised to start and then they work out a deal before the season begins, but just get the damn thing done already. Like this is not that difficult. He's going to make a little bit more than Jared Goff, because Dak signs after Jared Goff. He's better than Jared Goff as well. Sure. So pay him right now, because I'd much rather get the deal done, even if it does mean, which is maybe a little bit much, as opposed to like 33, but I'd rather be 35 right now and not drag it out. And then all of a sudden, Patrick Mahomes signs, and Deshaun Watson signs, and all of a sudden, the market value goes from 35 to 38, and now you've cost yourself money. Just do it right now. He's your franchise guy. He played really well this season. Get it done. Get it over with. Take care of your most important position with a young player who's getting better and has played really well every year he's been here. Well, maybe beyond 2017, but still.
You spit everything out my mouth. I just want to repeat that, because like you said, it don't make sense. Just like we was talking about with DeMarcus Lawrence. You knew you were going to sign him. You knew you were going to bring him back, and you knew you were going to have to pay a lot of cash. So get it done, because guess what? He waited till that shoulder surgery. You seen the layoff, how he still played good, but you see it probably could have been a bigger impact if he would got the surgery earlier and been in training camp and been able to train and do those type of things. Man, Dak's been the good soldier. soldier. Pay this man his money. Just like you said, you don't need to wait for the Deshaun Watson, the Patrick Mahomes. Why? You already waited before and you spiked the you could have had him cheaper a little bit a while ago. So stop playing. You know you're going to sign him. You know you're bringing him back. You just got McCarthy in there. You're talking about working with them. So get these other players out the way, because it doesn't make any sense at this point of why you ain't doing it. And stop talking in the media talking about we ready to land this plane. Because then if you're ready to land the plane, land it.
You're about to run out of fuel here. Get it done.
Get it done and get it done now. So now here's the interesting guy. A couple interesting guys that it's kind of been, James Slater just talked to him at the Pro Bowl. He says he wants to stay in Dallas. I believe him. I said, no more am I going to look at your facial expressions, Amari, because that's just who you are. I'm not going to look at your facial expressions and think you don't want to be here anymore. I'm not going to believe that. That's just who you are. You like my cousin. He had the same face all the time. So I'm not going to believe that. I believe you want to be here. But what do you think about this Amari thing, Tom? I mean, first it was sounding real good and strong. Now you hear there are a lot of good receivers in this draft. Now it seems like maybe it might not be so strong. What do you think about this one?
Mari is a very interesting talking one, because if we had this discussion in number one receiver, then he kind of disappears down the stretch for the back half of the season, and it wasn't the same guy. I'm not convinced he wasn't at least somewhat banged up there. Right. I don't know if he was getting along with the receivers coach. And I like him more like in a bubble. I pay him. I make him my number one guy. But you compare it to even just Byron Jones, the cornerback, for example. It's easier to find a receiver given how great Gallup has played, what this year's receiving class looks like for the draft. But I'd probably still
do you trust
do
it though? Do you trust that?
I'm a little worried.
That's my fear too, because I'm worried about Gallup. Because I still don't think he's ready to take the number one extension, because guess what? He played really good because Amari was there. That's just my opinion. He played good because Amari was there. We saw when Amari was out, a couple games, he had a lot of drops and didn't step up the way we wanted. So that gets me nervous. Yeah, you can get a top flight receiver, but it's still a crapshoot. You still don't know. And the Dallas Cowboys really want to go into that when you just spent this first round pick. Usually if you draft a first rounder, you're getting 4-5 years on the option year. If you traded that first round pick, you only got a year and a half worth of service of that. That kind of just doesn't make sense to me.
Maybe a route here that could make some sense, because we're both a little bit unsure, just not quite 100% there. Maybe you could franchise tag him for a season, see if he has an entire year, and then you at least feel better. Yeah, it'll cost you more money, but you feel better about doing a long-term deal then.
Well, here's the thing. I feel better about if you're going to franchise him to like an $18 million, whereas Dak to a $33 million or a $27 million, taking up that cap space. I don't really like it, but I would rather deal with that a little bit better.
I agree.
So let's say we have the CBA and it doesn't get signed, and there's the two tags. It's been talked about. You can, let's say you sign Dak, then you franchise Amari because you don't get something done. Now, do you put that other tag that if it's available to a Byron Jones?
I do. I love what Quinn did this year, and he's a great player as well, but Byron would be priority number 3 for me. I feel very anxious about entering the offseason with Awuzie and Lewis as your only 2 real corners on your roster since Brown's a free agent. And I know Byron doesn't make a lot of interceptions, but Byron doesn't allow guys open. Like, he's per Pro Football Focus, he was top 5 this year in yards allowed per snap and receptions allowed per snap. So if he's not making plays, it's okay, because other guys aren't making plays on him either.
Yeah. I love Byron Jones. I mean, I hate that he doesn't have the interceptions. That's the first thing that comes up. But if you really go to the stats and really look at real deep in the stats, he's locking down the receivers, and that's what you want. Yes, you want a playmaker, a cornerback. We all do. But you also want to feel good that when you're in the game, you don't have to worry about one side of the field, and that's what he does. And just like you said, do we really feel good? I love Jordan Lewis, okay? But you know what? I don't love Cheeto. I like Cheeto, but I don't know where he is sometimes. I don't know, because he's not the aggressive guy with all the physical traits that he has. He's not aggressive that I like. And I feel like, you know what? That's too much of an uncertainty to go in. And okay, we know we got Chris Restery that's from the practice squad. I love his size, but he's unproven. Donovan Lumba, I like a Lumba, but he doesn't have the speed as well. So you're still having unproven players on that back end, and that's the scary part. You can draft somebody, but corners in the draft, ooh, that's a super tough one right there. You can't really rely on them guys.
I completely agree, and my hope is that if you do re-sign Byron, the new scheme change that comes in under Mike Nolan, I would hope you see more of the ball hawking that we saw at UConn when he had like 7 or 8 interceptions in his career there. So if it's up to me, and you can definitely make it happen within the confines of the salary cap, I'm paying Byron Jones, even though it's going to be 14, 15 million per year.
Yeah. Well, I'm feeling you. I've been kind of teetering, not because I don't like him. It's just because I'm thinking like, how y'all going to sign these dudes as far as y'all, but y'all can do it. Hey, we need core guys back. We need to try to make this championship run. And if you're trying to make a championship run, it doesn't make sense for you to lose an Amari or a Byron Jones if you're trying to make this championship run and go with unknowns when you have guys in a win now mode. That's just what it seems like to me.
I agree.
All right. So, Senior Bowl. We've been talking about players. We talked about receivers in this draft. Senior Bowl is out there. A lot of guys are looking really good. Throw some guys' names out that you kind of feel like, man, this is a guy that the Cowboys need to keep their radar, whether it's on the offense or defensive side of the ball.
I think we'll go with the biggest name there. I think the Senior Bowl before he had the knee issue pop up was Javon Kinlaw, the defensive tackle out of South Carolina. I think there's a pretty solid chance he's on the board for the Cowboys at number 17 overall. And then looking beyond just the defensive line there, we kind of mentioned this before. The receiving class is so good this year.
Man, it is.
There's so much depth and talent
and speed.
Yeah, it's so good. It depends on, hey, what do you want in your receiver class? For me, just with some uncertainty about Cobb and his age, I'm kind of looking more towards slot guys. And they had 3 guys down there this week and are going to play in the game today. KJ Hill from Ohio State, Devin Duvernay from Texas, James Prochet from SMU. With as strong as it is, I think you can wait till round 4 and find yourself a really nice receiver with that pick.
I totally agree with that, especially when you're talking about Devin and KJ. Those guys have looked really good. Of course, I'm a Texas guy, so we got to see him. But that speed has been looking really nice as long as KJ. And as you said, you can see those guys in the 3rd, 4th round, and you could pick those guys up. And that's where I was on the Cobb train as far as bringing him back. But then I got to looking at these receivers, and then I got to watching these Senior Bowl practices. And I'm like, hold up. I don't know if we got to do the Cobb thing anymore. I'm kind of, let me temper that. And they still do have John V. Johnson still on the practice squad as well, don't they?
Yeah.
What do you think about him?
He's interesting. I know he was the pet cat of everyone this past training camp and preseason. I'd say bring him back. Option, like, I think even if you go with the route of you keep Amari, you of course have Gallup, you keep Cobb, even you could still draft somebody and then let John V. Johnson, Cedric Wilson, Devin Smith, Noah Brown, all those guys compete for that number 5 receiver.
I don't want Noah Brown compete with nothing.
Hey, we got
either way, like that gives you a lot of
Hector in the
depth
comments
there.
said, "Is it possible that the Cowboys could trade up?"
What do you think about that? I think there's going to be something happening in the air. What do you think?
It's certainly an option. I think it's a little early to say for sure. It depends on how the board starts to fall. Like if Derek Brown goes early, then Javon Kinlaw goes early, and the top receivers go off the board, and the quarterbacks aren't going early, then maybe you get a little bit antsy about getting one of those defensive backs if that's still an area of need, and you go up and get that option there. But I'd actually lean more towards staying at 17. Of course, depending on how the board falls, I think you'll have a top 15 caliber player available to you to take.
All right, so we've been looking at a lot of publications. Are saying Grant Delpit. They're saying McKinney from Alabama. What do you think about those 2 players? And if you had a choice between those 2, which one would you go with?
I like them both. I was really high on Delpit entering this year, and he was a bit banged up, and he didn't tackle very well, and that's a big red flag after having watched Jeff Heath played here for so long.
Oh, man.
They both be instant starters for you. Do some free safety. the way I kind of describe it is Grant Delpit is if you were to ask me which of those safeties ends up being an all-pro, I'd probably go, hey, Grant Delpit ends up being the all-pro because he's got great ball skills, can blitz, can do everything for you. If you were to ask me, hey, which of those two safeties ends up busting, I'd also go with Grant Delpit just because of the tackling issues and some shoulder issues that he had at LSU. Xavier McKinney, I don't think has the same high-end ceiling, but I also feel really good about him coming in, being a very reliable starter for you, and being a guy you look back in 4 years ago, yeah, this pick worked out pretty darn well for us.
Right. Well, I mean, I like Delpit a little bit more, and I guess because I'm getting a little biased with the LSU safeties been coming out as of late, they've really been looking really good. We're going to Tyrann Mathieu. I mean, he's a little smaller guy, but he's been a dog with LSU, and then you have Patrick Peterson. You got guys from LSU that are position and safety position. I guess that maybe sways me a little bit more, but just watching Delpit's tape, I think he's just a little bit more versatile than McKinney is as far as switching to a free and a strong. Yes, I think the tackling issue may have came up, but he had some injuries this past season, and I think that kind of hampered him in his tackling. I'm not making no excuses for him, but junior year, and you really watch his junior year, he looked really good in tackling, had a lot of tackles. So I like him, but I like another player just a little bit more here. I'm going to talk about him in a second, but let's talk about this guy that been with the Cowboys a long time. He used to do this. He used to throw his hands up like this. We all used to watch and love it, and he's been chirping on Twitter a whole lot, been showing people a whole lot of workouts. Came out and said, well, heck, you had Jason Witten there. You could have put me in his position. I could have did that too. What do you really think this Dez Bryant thing going on right now, and would you bring him back?
Well, two things before we get started there. Very important things. Number one, Dez caught it. And number two, I'm really glad that Dez has come back and he's working out and he's kind of prepared to play football again. Tough for me because it's a question of role and also expectations. I love Dez Bryant, was one of my favorite guys when he was here. I thought the Cowboys made a mistake by cutting him. He's also not going to be prime Dez Bryant anymore. Like if you're expecting he's going to come back in and be 2014 disappointed, because he ain't that guy anymore. He hasn't played in 2 years and he's coming off a torn Achilles. And if you bring back Amari, you bring back Cobb, well, at that point, Dez comes in and he's your number 4 receiver. And I know he's mentioned the Witten role. I don't really want anybody in the Jason Witten role anymore. Like, because I'm throwing out Cooper, Gallup, Cobb, Zeke on almost every single snap that I can. And I kind of want to see what Blake Jarwin has or a different tight end has in that capacity. So then all of a sudden, okay, well, Dez, he comes in, he's my number 4 receiver. How does he help me on game day? He's a great insurance policy at that point, but he's not going to be back on returns at his age. That doesn't really make sense. He's never been a kick coverage guy, so he's not going to help you on special teams. So all of a sudden, he becomes a better player, but a slower version of like a Devin Smith who isn't really active on game day. So what I would do, I'm totally down to bring him in on a 1-year deal with no guaranteed money and have him compete for a role during camp. There's no downside to that, and heaven forbid there's an injury during camp to one of your more notable receivers. He becomes the world's greatest break-in case of emergency. But my fear with Dez is that if he comes in, best case scenario for the current guys, he's your number 4 receiver, and he's not really making much of an impact because he's not the same contested catch guy. And for whatever reason, the Dez-Dak connection wasn't as good as the Dez-Tony Romo connection, or even as the Dak Cooper-Dak Gallup connection was.
Whole mouthful, and I was feeling you on a lot of it. So I talked about this last night. You know, I always loved Dez. I mean, Dez, I would just always love him. I agree with you. I didn't like how it was done when he left out. But you know what? The conflict of personalities, the biggest thing with me is Dez has an alpha dog type personality. He has that he's just, my thing is this. If Stephen Jones said, hey, you know what? I think we're going to go ahead and move on. I don't see a Stephen Jones after he moves on from you, bringing you back, especially when you have a new regime. You're trying to get Dak even to where you want him to ultimately be. You love the Cooper Dak connection. You have Gallup. And like I said, it's a great feel-good story, but where's Dez really going to get his balls? Okay, where is he really going to get his catches? You say the tight, people say, tight end, or he even mentioned it. He ain't no, he's not. He ain't blocking no big boys like that. He's not doing that. And just like you said, I want to finally see Blake Jarwin, and then I want them to draft another tight end or get another tight end so we can finally doing all that. And I'm sorry, Dez is saying, hey, I will come back and, dog, if you're the fourth receiver and you ain't getting no passes, you going to be on that sideline being quiet? I don't know. Because Dez is too much of a competitor, and I just don't know. And I don't feel like the biggest thing with me is Stephen Jones. I don't feel like wants to bring back any kind of distractions, and I just don't see him doing that. Because once Stephen Jones gets rid of you, he just don't backtrack and come back and pick you up. I just don't. And he has a lot of control.
Completely agree on that one.
Yeah, there it is. See, that's why I like Tom. See, I knew I liked you. And then when you just come with that, I said, yep, that's my dog. Well, that's my man. So we always gonna be good. Okay, so I like it, Tom. But hey, let's talk about some trades, man. Let's talk about some free on this train since dog. When they said something about Jamal Adams, I said, ah! I went over there and said, man, hey, y'all better stop playing with me. Don't you want to get it all funny? No, we want Tyron Smith or Zach Martin. Okay, bye. I ain't talking to you no more either. But man, what do you think about it? Because y'all can make it happen. Do you agree with me? Make this Jamal things real.
I would love to bring in Jamal Adams. I've coveted safeties for years now, but the Cowboys have never really valued them in the same way. On your team by a pretty significant margin. Him, Tank, it's just both, I think, all pro calibers. Jalen, if he ever can fully stay healthy and kind of get back to his 2018 form. Safety comes in, instant impact guy. Look, he was the Jets' best player. Not only was he their best safety, they're one of their best coverage guys against tight ends, he was their best pass rusher. Like, he had defense, which is why it's so confusing to me. I think it's a kind of an Adam Gase thing at this point. Everywhere he goes, the team's best players aren't happy. All the Jets have to do is just give him a big extension, and we're not talking about it anymore. They haven't done that yet. So until they do that, I'm going to keep saying, hey, first-round pick and something else for Jamal Adams. Let's get this done.
What do you think about this? I said this, a first, a fourth, and Tristan Hill.
I'm sold. I would even do a first and a third, even if that third is like a 2021 third. Like I'm down to do that. And any and all trades that I am including, Tristan Hill is a free throw-in.
I feel you. And I mean, just like you said, until they have done this extension, and if this is your guy, right? This is the one, like you said, this is your best player on your team. And he has that passion and he knows it. I mean, look what he has done. So if this is your guy, why haven't you already locked this man up and said, all right, this is our guy. We ain't worried about him. Let's go ahead and concentrate on some other people. And as long as you play that game, then I'm going to keep on talking to the football gods. I'm going to keep praying to the football gods. And I'm going to keep on speaking into existence, because when Robert Quinn, he was at Miami and they were talking about a little bit of rumblings that they weren't bringing him back, I said, football gods, hear my cry. We need Robert Quinn. And he heard my cry. Now, I didn't call Amari Cooper, but I always liked Amari from afar. So I feel like in my heart, I'm 2 for 2. So I feel like the football guys see I'm 2 for 2. Let's go ahead and pray Jamal Adams into existence, because you get him. I understand the extension he's going to want, the money he's going to want. I get all that. But you're not going to tell me he comes on this team and he's a Texas boy, and the way he plays and the fire he plays, he's not instantly going to make our team just what?
Instant leader on your defense there. You mentioned he's Texas boy. That's where he grew up. I would love to get Adams. I'll throw out one more offensive guy here for you too that I'm kind of hoping for. Okay. O.J. Howard, the Bucs tight end.
Yes.
I don't know what the cost would really be, but I think the Cowboys are really great blockers, so they can still, pound the ball with Zeke as much as they want. And he's been underused by the Bucs offense.
Super underused.
He's got a year left. Then his fifth-year option actually isn't that expensive for him. Bring him in, and if I can get him for a second round pick, maybe that takes care of my tight end spot for the next 10 years.
Yeah. And then you got a Blake Jarwin. You just re-sign him because he's a restricted free agent.
Exactly.
Get them both back in the fold. What? You get them both on the field, and then you got a Cooper, you got a Gallup, you got a O.J. Howard, you got a Blake Jarwin, you got a Ezekiel Elliott, you got Tony. Then guess what? These defenses are scared no matter what they say. And now you got a new staff who I think is going to be more daring. And check this out. This is what I was saying. I want to see if you agree with me on this. Mike McCarthy has a lot of pressure, okay? Because guess what? He sat out a whole year. Okay, analytics, everybody's saying, he did the analytics, this, and this. So he has a lot of pressure because he's leaving from the Packers, a storied organization, coming to another storied organization. And this is a win-now mode team. And everybody's saying, Dallas has the team. We just need the coach. So he has hella pressure. Them assistants have hella pressure because guess what? This pressure in Dallas, I don't know how that pressure is in Green Bay, buddy. But you coming over into a big old fat frying pan of fire with grease all over it. And let me tell you, if you don't get the Cowboys to a championship game, at least with these first couple of years, buddy, they're going to be cooking you filleting you like grease. So I feel like that pressure in itself is going to make this whole team kind of better because there's no playing around. There's no playing around with this staff or this team.
I completely agree.
See, that's another. See, Skywalker, I told you why I like this man. You know what I mean? All right, so about to wrap it up. I definitely appreciate Tom, man. We jumped into the Twitter. You've always been a good host. I listen to your Twitters. You're real funny too about your little Twitter feeds. I like following you on Twitter, so I definitely appreciate that. Congratulations on your new marriage. That was wonderful as well. And before we head out of here, let them know where they can kind of find you, check you out, things of those nature.
All right, thanks you. I am on Twitter at whatgoingdowney. You can follow me on there. And then we do a bunch of YouTube stuff here. The Dallas Cowboys Report on YouTube. Go check. It's posted some trade targets for the Cowboys earlier today on that channel, so you guys can go check that out.
All right, and before we head out of here, I do want to ask you about a couple of free agents because that slipped my mind. All right, so free agents from other teams. Now, me and Skywalker, we were talking about some fat boys. The fat boys are back. You know what I'm saying? And they can never be whacked. So we was talking about fat boys. But one of the guys that I was throwing out there, and I don't know how you felt. Tell me about your guys that you would pluck out of the free agency from some other teams. Jordan Phillips keeps ringing in my ear from the Buffalo Bills because I like that big 6'6", 340. I mean, he had a very good year. He's not going to be super expensive. That's one of the guys I would love to attack if it doesn't fall their way as far as the draft, as far as the defensive tackle position. What are some of your other guys? I know you mentioned O.J. Howard. Or is there some defensive guys, safety, linemen, linebackers, anybody that's kind of piqued your interest?
Yeah, I got a couple of guys. I don't know how active they'll be with other teams' free agents, assuming they take care of business with their own guys because they'll spend a lot of their salary cap there. I do want a big boy on the interior. Let's value those guys. I'll throw out the name Mike Pinnell, who is going to be, I think, a cheaper option than most of the defensive tackles. Chiefs player right now. He's nowhere near as good as Chris Jones, but I don't think you have much of a chance of actually getting Chris Jones. He played for Mike McCarthy, by the way, in Green Bay to begin his career. So connecting those dots there fits the scheme, should be a cheaper option. And then if you don't get a Jamal Adams type, couple of safeties, a Von Bell, a Carl Joseph could be a really good fit at strong safety there. And then if you lose Robert Quinn, I really wanted Shaq Barrett last year. He, of course, balled out for the Bucs. Worked out fine because you got Quinn, so I have no regrets about that one. Couple younger, maybe a little bit more expensive options could be a Vic Beasley as a Bilo guy.
Ooh.
And then you mentioned a Bills player, Shaq Lawson.
Yes.
I think I'm told he doesn't love Buffalo all that much. He went to Clemson originally, so if he wants to head back down south, if you can get him on a cheap 1 year, $5-6 million deal, kind of like what you ended up doing with Quinn and what Shaq Barrett got, that really intrigues me if you do lose Quinn.
Yeah, good names. I definitely will check y'all out on that YouTube with those more drafts and get some more insight on that. But once again, man, I really appreciate your time coming on here. Thank you, folks, for in the feed. Tom Downey, what's up, Downey? Go, like I said, check them out on Dallas Cowboys Sports Chat. It's a really good production. It's awesome. Really good talking over there. So please go over there and subscribe and like them over there as well. I appreciate you coming on here, gracing us with your time. Had good Cowboys talk, and we will definitely be talking to you soon, my man. I appreciate you, and best of luck to everything you do out there.
Thank you, James. I appreciate that.
All right. Well, Silver and Blue Nation, Big Skywalker still, we out.